Hello and welcome. I'm in conversation with Alia Baré, a fashion designer based in Senegal, but she's from Niger and she is right now in our studio in Johannesburg. Really nice to be speaking with you, Alia, here today.
Hi, I'm really happy to be here.
Alia, great journey you've had. As I said earlier, you're born in Niger. You're the former president's daughter, and now you're based in Senegal. And you're a designer who believes in portraying the African diversity in, portraying the cultures of the land. And you've done that very effectively through your brand, which you launched in 2015. How have you managed to do that? What is the narrative that you seek to change with this effort?
Well, the thing is, before converting and starting my career as a fashion designer, I was in bank and I managed also to travel quite some time in Asia, in Europe, and US. And every time we will talk about African culture, we will have those kind of stereotype, the big boo-boo, especially from West Africa, the boo-boo, the wax print and everything. So even during my journey as a student in fashion design, I realized that every time we would like to talk about a narrative of African culture, it will always be those kind of stereotypes. So for me, the first thing, as soon as I got my diploma, I wanted just to have a narrative that will be infused with the African culture, African roots, but that could be wearable everywhere without looking like a cliche. So yes, I really wanted to get out of the cliche of African fashion.
So there's a lot of emphasis on fusion art. How do you define your design aesthetic?
Yes, as I say, there's two things. It's like Afrofusion because I have always been passionate about Asian culture, and as I lived also more than 10 years in France, so all those elements have inspired me, and I think that even like Africa right now, we have different form of inspiration coming from also like the colonialism and also even different people who came. And I think the best thing is like we take the best of each influence and then we integrate it in our own culture, in our own art. And that's what I wanted to do. And that's what I'm trying. So that's why I will try to put like some graffiti, some Asian aesthetic, and also like the fabric, for example, in like the French lace, some French culture, French painters. So for me, it's very like all about the fabric that we are creating, the illustration that can define, because Africa is not like just a country or just prints. It's really how to say a spirit. And there's so many ways to be African without being talking about the mask or the voodoo or whatever. And that's really important for people to understand that. Like we have a sophisticated taste of beauty in Africa. Even if we don't have much to give, we give it like fully and we give it in such a beautiful way. So that's the thing that I'm trying to transmit.
I don't think we've ever, at least for Forbes Africa, we've not featured a designer from Niger. The impression that we have of Niger is, of course, this landlocked West African country with a lot of political turmoil and economic problems, and the United Nations has also called it one of the least developed countries, or perhaps the least developed country in the world. So, in the midst of all of this, how are you using fashion as an instrument of soft power, as an instrument to uplift the country's narrative, although you're based in Senegal? What are you doing as a cultural ambassador for the country?
So for me, it's that was the main things because like Niger, we've been known quite for some time for big like we have like turmoil, a lot of coup, and recently it's even worse. And the issue is like it's kind of taking away all the beautiful things that going on there. So we have such a richness in terms of culture with the Tuareg, with the Hausa and everything. And unfortunately, it's shaded by all the political turmoil, as you said. So for me, it's very important to show those beauty, like even in the despair, even in the difficult time, the beauty of our country and the beauty of even the people who don't have much but still try to give and still keep the smile. Like people from Niger are a beautiful population. It's like despite all the trouble that we have, people stay positive and people are still very friendly. Like when you come, we don't have much to offer, but we give it with a full heart, and that's what I'm trying to transmit. So that's why I'm trying to take, like for example, some pattern, our cross from Agadez, some embroidery, some stuff that you can see when you go in the villages, when you see the people, when you see our jewelry, and try to put it back, but in a modern way, through fabric, through our how we also drape it, so that people can also have a positive vision and wear it in without like being with the stereotype of like a country, like the poorest country in the world, indeed. And by talking about that aspect, we can also highlight some other things of our culture. So I think for, as you said, is really a soft power, talking about changing the narratives of our country so that people can see also the beauty despite the ugly things that are going on right now.
It's a country with a small population. It's about what 25 million people. But what's the youth dividend? What's the youth demographic? Do you have a consumer market, so to speak? Is fashion a priority for the young people that you see there?
So we have like in terms of the pyramids of needs, we are so far behind. Like I don't know if you know, but actually Niger has the world record in terms of birth rate natality. So the average of children per woman is more than 7.4. Per woman, not per man. So can you imagine? So unfortunately, we are in a situation that compared to the previous generation, the youth has less access to education, to health than their parents or their great-grandparents. So this is something very hard, and this is something that we have to fight. And definitely now the population and especially the young people are very frustrated because they don't have any chances. They see like all the other countries developing, they see that we find oil, we find gas, we find so many things, but they don't get benefits of it. So definitely there's things to do, and the population is growing very, very, even if we are not a lot, it's growing very fast. But unfortunately, they don't have access to the modernity and to the things that we think are the minimal. So even me as a fashion designer, to be honest, like Niger is not one of my main market because like we still have like our middle class still have to grow. But there is a potential to improve. So that's why also like for me it's important to go and see like in the sub-region, and because I think the narratives are quite equivalent. And even like for example in South Africa, I'm quite happy because like really the customer here are really appreciating my work, and even like the aesthetic inspired by West African culture. I think there is so many things we can do, like some boundaries and some. For me, anyways, when I design, people when they ask me, I say I design African clothes for African customers. I'm not trying to export in US or whatever because the whole potential is in Africa. We are enough. We have the values. We have everything needed to be to explore that potential. It's just that to we have to go through a lot of things so that we are facilitating all the logistic for transportation, for exportation, and for selling. So even us as a fashion designer, the challenges are to manage to go through the logistic or the custodies, like the customs, sorry, my French, I have a tendency to put my words in French. And also like to have things that are, the quality is good enough for ready to wear so that we can really make it accessible to the most of the African population.
Alia, we have very little time, but one last question is you're a former president's daughter. Your dad was assassinated in 1999. What has that journey been like? And especially as a small entrepreneur based in these small West African countries, what have your own struggles been? If you can just let us know in a few brief words.
Yes, so like It was a later conversion, so I started my journey as a fashion designer at 35. I was a single mother also, so it was quite complicated to open my workshop and to manage to little by little make a name, because no matter what, even if I was the daughter of a former president, I still have to start all over again from scratch. So all that was quite complicated. So definitely to like start having customer people to start talking about me, especially as it wasn't in my country. I settled in Senegal because it was much easier for me, because Niger is still quite painful for me to go back because there's too many memories related to my father. So it was difficult, but little by little, I think the people are ready now. African customers are ready to buy things made in Africa if we give them the proper quality. So it was complicated, but still, I'm very happy of the journey, and I'm happy to be able to live of that now. And I'm very grateful also even to the people from Niger, because they have been very supportive. Even though if some can't buy my things, they are very supportive and very proud of my journey, because I'm trying to, my father fought for my country and for the story, like to be like for a fair economy and fair for poor people. And me, I'm trying to fight in another way, but I'm fighting for the image of my country and also for my people, as Niger is a beautiful country and we have a lot to offer to the world.
Fighting with fashion. This is the fashionista from Niger, now settled in Senegal, who's designing for Africa. That was Alia Baré for CNBC Africa in Conversation.
I don't think those people realize how